Today, this is a protest organised by Friends of Palestine WA. We're gathered here today on stolen Aboriginal lands of which sovereignty was never ceded. It always was and always will be Aboriginal lands. Always was, always will be.
Aboriginal lands.
Always was, always will be.
Aboriginal lands.
Well, we're gathered here outside the Perth Convention and Exhibition Centre because inside, gathering now, setting up now, the United Israel Appeal is preparing for a gala dinner with a special guest of honour, Ron Dermer. Now, Ron Dermer, in case you don't know, was one of Netanyahu's closest allies, remains one of Netanyahu's closest allies. He was the Israel ambassador to the US for 8 years from 2013 to 2021, and he was Israel's Minister of Strategic Affairs from 2022 to 2025. This means that he is not only a supporter of Israel's genocide in Gaza, he is also one of its architects, one of its creators. The United Israel Appeal is hosting this event. They're touring him around Australia to build support for Israel and its genocidal project in Palestine and its colonial project in Palestine.
Arrested for hate crime.
I want to invite up our first speaker for today. Our first speaker for today is Sam Wainwright. So Sam is a member of Stop AUKUS. He's a member of the Socialist Alliance. He's a long-term anti-war and pro-Palestine activist. You've probably seen him around at a protest or two, speaking at one of them, and we'll hear from him again now, so please make Sam welcome.
Thanks so much, Danica. Thanks everyone for turning up at short notice. We only found out where the venue was going to be like yesterday, and obviously, like everyone, acknowledge on the land of the Whadjuk Noongar people, sovereignty never ceded. Well, this guy Dermer, I mean, you're going to hear more about him from other people, but amongst other things that he's on the record as saying, is expressing the need to so-called thin out the population of Gaza. Well, we've seen a thinning out, all right, in the hundreds of thousands, a genocidal thinning out. But it's worth reading his words, his own words. If you go to Australia Jewish News, right now there's an interview with him. It's quite chilling because he's quite cold and calculated and conscious about this program of driving out the Palestinians and keeping neighbouring states on side. I'd really encourage you to read it. If anything, just to understand the enemy, basically. You know, he's quite cocky, quite confident about the prospects that Israel can continue to push ahead with the Abraham Accords, bring Arab governments in the region on side. He specifically singles out the UAE of doing a fantastic job. He specifically says that Emirates Airlines continued to fly to Israel. It was the only airline other than El Al that continued to fly to Israel throughout the last 3 years. Pay special respect to UAE and other Gulf states that have, let's be frank, have done absolutely bugger all to help the Palestinians. Israel, for instance, continues to sell oil to Israel and has done throughout the genocide. Look, I'm going to just concentrate on 3 points fairly briefly. One is 3 years of genocide confirms that the AUKUS agreement effectively makes it impossible for Albanese to break from the genocide. I mean, Australia was already very embedded in the US strategic and military policy through the Force Posture Agreement, ANZUS, Pine Gap and other bases. But if you're going to pour $380 billion and counting into a nuclear submarine program, which is totally tied up with US strategy in the Asia Pacific, then you're hardly going to break from Israel, from the United States on the question of Israel and its policy in the Middle East. It's just not going to happen. I don't think that's controversial to people now. I think probably 3 years ago, if you tried to connect the two issues, some people might have said, well, I can't, you know, aren't they separate issues? I mean, in a sense, they are separate issues, but I think it's very clear that we have to break this alliance with the United States precisely so we don't support things such the sort of actions that are happening right now. The second point I want to make is this. Is by going along with the United States and continuing to support Israel in the way that Australia has helped open the door for the kind of behaviour that Trump is exhibiting right now. You remember back when Russia invaded Ukraine, it was all rules-based order, and we can't allow that, all the precedent, all that sort of stuff. And of course, 18 months later, that was all in the bin. We weren't worried about rules-based order, multilateral institutions, all the rest of it when it comes to Israel. And Trump was watching all that. And okay, well, you've given special dispensation to Israel to ignore international law, do what it wants, run amok. Maybe it's time for the United States to pursue exactly the same kind of strategy as well in the world. Not just subcontract that out to Israel in the Middle East, but that the United States can do it anywhere and everywhere it chooses. And if you ask me, there's a lot of madness and lunacy and just over the top, it's almost vaudeville stuff from Trump, but there is a method there. In my opinion, Trump represents a faction of the ruling elite in the United States that have consciously decided it's not worth the cost, politically or financially, to pretend to care about multilateral institutions, to pretend to care about international law. Okay, we know they never did. The invasion of Iraq and death of 1 million people bears that out. But they don't pretend they do anymore. That is a difference. And they're acting that way. And we see that in their recent behaviour in Latin America. So, right now, the United States is imposing a total blockade on the country of Cuba, on all oil imports to Cuba. Some people say that Cuba's perhaps only got 15 days of oil left. This is a country that generates 70% of its electricity from oil. So that means sewage processing plants, all electricity, hospitals, everyone's stuff just going rotten in the fridge. The United States is quite consciously trying to cause a collapse and crisis of an entire society. Now, under international law, that is an act of law, and it's just happening. Would you know about it in our newspapers? No, you would not, right? It's by Australia and the other so-called liberal Western democracies barely raising a voice about what is happening, about the genocide and Israel's blatant disregard of international law. They've precisely encouraged Trump and the gang around him to take the plunge. And that's exactly what they're doing. So the two things combined, we now have a situation where Australia is not even prepared, because of AUKUS and because of that general context, to even do the things that some other Western nations are doing. You might remember a few weeks ago when Israel just basically sent in bulldozers and demolished the UNRWA administration and facilities on the West Bank. And, other Western nations raised a bit of a peep, but Australia, nothing. Nothing. Let alone even doing the bare minimum that some other nations are doing, like Croatia, who else? Croatia, Slovenia, Ireland, Spain, and saying we're not going to allow weapons exports to Israel, which is the bare minimum. And that is just, it looks good compared to us because of the shit that we've put up from this Albanese government. The third thing I want to say is that AUKUS is kind of on the rocks, precisely because of of Trump's pivot away from Asia and focus on Latin America. The AUKUS-class submarines weren't supposed, in theory, going to arrive in 2045. And so the stopgap measure was supposed to be Australia buying some second-class, Virginia-class submarines from the United States. The United States said, oh, look, we can only produce 1 or 2 a year. It's going to be a bit of a stretch. So far, the Albanese government has made 2 $500 million, that's US, $500 million donations. It's not a contract, it's not a purchase, donations to the US shipbuilding industry in the hope that, and there's another instalment of about $800 million that's yet to come, in the hope of encouraging, not guaranteeing, encouraging the United States to then sell us a second-class Virginia submarine, and the United States is already saying that's probably not going to happen. But it's almost like every time Trump comes out with something completely vile and grotesque and exhibits the complete contempt of his government for international law, Richard Marles, our defence minister, goes running across to Washington to make another payment. That's what happens twice so far. Will they make the third payment of $800 million? So it's like, who knows? Trump may actually blow up AUKUS himself. But we can't rely on that. That's the first thing. And even if that happens, we also can't rely on that being enough to tip the Albanese government into actually pulling a finger out of its arse and doing the bare minimum to help the Palestinian people. It's not going to happen. But I think what we should see is there's a sort of a silver lining in the cloud of Trump's grotesque rhetoric, is that it makes it easier for us to have a dialogue with the Australian people and explain enough of this alliance with the United States. The logic of an unconditional alliance with the United States is support for the genocide. It's happened. It's not a theory. It's happening right now, and we have an opportunity to really break that. We did a protest. Some of us were here down at Rockingham just last Sunday. On Sunday morning, we walked from Rockingham foreshore to HMAS Sterling, which is the naval base where the submarines are going to be. First it's going to be US and UK submarines on rotation, and then in theory that's where the Virginia class ones were going to be. And we got a really good reception from Rockingham people. I was surprised, because people want jobs in that area. And there's no manufacturing jobs. The big oil and gas companies, they manufacture their gas platforms somewhere else and they just float them down. They don't even make them here in Western Australia, so people want jobs. And people hear about AUKUS jobs. We got a really great reception from Rockingham people, and that really gives me confidence that we can turn this negative into a positive. We need to seize on this behaviour by Trump, the rhetoric by Trump, to point out that it is the Trump regime which is the sponsor of terrorism in our era, and let's double down and break the US alliance. Just very finally, Stop AUKUS WA, we're doing a flotilla action on the 15th, Sunday 15th of March. So you've got to get up early. It'll be 9 a.m. down at the beach, and we'll be doing a symbolic paddle out to express our opposition to the submarine deal. Hope to see some of you there. Thanks a lot.
Free Palestine! Free Palestine!
Free Palestine!
Israel, USA!
How many kids have you killed today?
Israel, USA!
How many kids have you killed today?
Israel, USA!
How many kids have you killed today?
Israel, USA!
How many kids have you killed today?
Thanks so much, Sam. I really agree, because Israel could not be committing this genocide without the direct monetary and military support of its allies, like the United States, which has spent billions of dollars to drown Gaza in blood over the last 2 years, and without support of states like Australia, who does send military hardware manufactured in factories in Australia. It does make trade deals with Israeli weapons companies like Elbit Systems. Australia is supporting the genocide, not just in words, but also in action. Well, I think it seems like some of the people have been coming through and entering the gala, so I think we should get some chants, keep going, keep the energy up, make sure they can hear us, and make sure that they know that we object to a war criminal like Dermer coming to Perth, daring to show his face. So, let's kick it off. Ron Dermer, you can't hide, we charge you with genocide! Ron Dermer, you can't hide!
We charge you with genocide!
Ron Dermer, you can't hide!
We charge you with genocide!
Ron Dermer, you can't hide!
We charge you with genocide!
UIA, you can't hide!
We charge you with genocide!
UIA, you can't hide!
We charge you with genocide!
Albanese, you can't hide!
We charge you with genocide!
Albanese, you can't hide!
We charge you with genocide!
Donald Trump, you can't hide!
We charge you with genocide!
Donald Trump, you can't hide!
We charge you with genocide!
Woo! Okay, so the UIA I mentioned there is the United Israel Appeal. They're the organisation that is putting on this event. They're an organisation that has existed for a long time, and its purpose is to support the colonial state of Israel and its project of colonisation in Palestine. That's their project. And the UIA, like the state of Israel, makes a claim. They make a claim that they represent the interests of all Jewish people around the world. But we know that this is not true. We know that it is not the Jewish people around the world who are interested in 75 plus years of colonization of Palestine. We know that it's not the Jewish people of the world who are interested in the murder of hundreds of thousands of Palestinians, not just in Gaza over the last 2 years, but stretching back into that history. And because of that, we have been really privileged in Australia to be joined in our movement with groups like Jews for Palestine in WA. They're a really important part of our movement, and we're really proud that they stand with us. Our next speaker is a speaker from Jews for Palestine WA. His name is Yehuda Shapiro.
Hello. So, why do we let war criminals into our country? It's not to protect Jews. Clearly, that is rubbish. He is not here because the Jewish people are in danger. I'm not sure if you've looked at the papers recently, but apparently our cops are going to be carrying rifles in response to the Bondi massacre. Do you think that this makes Jewish people safe?
Israel makes Jews unsafe all over the world.
Israel makes Jews unsafe. We are heading down a path towards a police state. We've been on it for a long time. And police states, historically, do not protect Jews. The government has been increasing the weaponry, the militarization of the police, the surveillance apparatus, in the name of the Jews. It says that it needs to crack down on protests and free speech because of anti-Semitism. But do you think that the government actually cares about Jewish people? Do you think the police actually cares about the safety of the Jewish people? No! Of course not. Because when Jews like us, who stand against genocide, speak up, it's our speech that is silenced. We are the ones who get surveilled, and the police do nothing to protect us. I have a couple stories that will illuminate this point. After the Bondi massacre, Jews for Palestine hosted a vigil for the victims. We were all quite scared after that event, the massacre, and so we asked the police, it was held down in Fremantle, so we asked the police at Fremantle if they could be there to protect us, the thing that the government says they're supposed to be doing. They said, if there's an emergency, just dial 000. In the wake of the first real mass shooting that we've had in a long, long time, where Jews were shot at a beach, they decided that it's fine, we don't need to be there. But when they found out the media was going to be there, when they found out Channel 7 was going to be there, their tune changed really quickly. There was a whole battalion of police officers there, half of them carrying rifles, because there were going to be cameras. This shows that what they care about is propaganda. They want a message that they care, but they don't. They do not care about the protection of the Jewish people. It's rubbish. There is no truth behind it. When I was at the counter-protest to the March for Australia, where it was known that the National Socialist Network, the Australian neo-Nazi group, was going to be in the march, I covered my face like I do. And the police said to me that I had to either uncover my face or go home. I was given a choice. I was given a choice between showing my face to Nazis or not opposing them marching through Perth streets. Does that sound like they care about the Jews? When I think about anti-Semitism, I don't see you people, because whenever I'm here, amongst you all, this is how I feel safe. But when I think about anti-Semitism, I think about the people who just follow orders, the people who make Jews less safe, who make us show our faces to Nazis, who surveil us, who crack down on our free speech, because actions speak much louder than words. If you want to see your anti-Semites, you're free to look over there, and over there, and over there. So if you want to know why we let these war criminals into our country, and we let them parade around everywhere, it's because we have an interest in Israel. Israel is a place where they are at the forefront of surveillance and violence technologies. They sell their weapons, they sell their surveillance technology to other places where genocides are being committed. To India, in Kashmir, to the Congo, to Myanmar. And we're involved because we are heading towards a police state. That is why they are here. That is why we invite them. It's not to protect Jews, it's to consolidate power. Thank you.
Ron Dermer, you can't hide!
We track you in genocide!
Ron Dermer, you can't hide!
We track you in genocide!
Ron Dermer, you can't hide!
We track you in genocide!
Ron Dermer, you can't hide!
We track you in genocide!
Thank you so much, Yehuda. I think it's really important that we make it clear what exactly, what kind of a person Ron Dermer is, as we're here to oppose him. So he has a nickname. He's the Trump Whisperer. That was the nickname that he got when he was the Israeli ambassador to the US during the first Trump administration, and he was really known in those diplomatic circles for brokering deals between the US and Israel, like securing $38 billion in a military deal, securing US recognition for Jerusalem as Israel's capital, and for recognition of Israeli sovereignty over the occupied Golan Heights. But really, that was a bit of a prehistory of his career, because in 2023, at the start of Israel's genocide in Gaza, he was tasked by Netanyahu with constructing plans to, quote, thin the Palestinian population in Gaza to a minimum. Shame. So he's not just some diplomat, he's not just some politician, he's one of the people directly responsible for the death of at least 70,000 people in Gaza since October 2023, at least that many, probably uncountably more, buried underneath the rubble or evaporated by Israeli weapons that burn so hot it disintegrates people so they cannot be counted. So that's who Ron Dermer is, and that's who's been invited to this fancy gala dinner happening in the building behind us. But it hasn't just been Gaza that has been the target of Israel's project over the last 2 years. There's also been, under the cover of genocide, an acceleration of colonization in the West Bank. So since October 2023, more than 1,100 Palestinians have been murdered by Israeli forces in the occupied West Bank. It's a dramatic acceleration. And just recently, Israel announced that they are claiming large sections of the West Bank as state-owned land, as Israeli state-owned land for the first time since 1967. So that is the project of Israel. It's not just genocide in Gaza, it is also colonization of Palestine. It's the colonization of the West Bank. They have been invading areas of the West Bank that have been supposed to be under Palestinian control in the north, in towns like Jenin and Tulkarm. They've been setting up permanent military operations in those areas in violation of the laws that they signed 2 decades ago. And on top of that, they continue to hold more than 9,100 Palestinian prisoners in their dungeons. More than 3,500 of which are being held without charge and without trial. And among them are also 400 children rotting away, being locked up in these prisons, held for God knows how long. And this was a fact well before 2023. This has been the fact of the Israeli state since its inception. It has been a state of apartheid, of genocide and colonization. I want to welcome up our next speaker, but before I do that, I do think that we're overdue for some chanting. So, we're going to kick it off with, from the river to the sea,
Palestine will be free.
and from the sea to the river,
Palestine will live forever.
from the river to the sea,
Palestine will be free.
and from the sea to the river,
Palestine will live forever.
from the river to the sea,
Palestine will be free.
and from the sea to the river.
Palestine will live forever.
Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine.
Free, free, free Palestine!
Free, free, free Palestine.
And free, free Gaza!
Free, free Gaza.
Free, free, free Gaza!
Free, free, free Gaza.
Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine.
Free, free, free Palestine!
Free, free, free Palestine.
And free, free Gaza!
Free, free Gaza.
Free, free, free Gaza!
Free, free, free Gaza.
Israel, USA!
How many kids have you killed today?
Israel, USA!
How many kids have you killed today?
Israel, USA!
How many kids have you killed today?
Israel, USA!
How many kids have you killed today?
Woo, okay, so we're going to invite up our next speaker. Our next speaker is Nick Everett. Nick is the Secretary of Friends of Palestine WA. He's also a member of the WA Socialists, and he's been around the block. He was a co-convener of the Stop the War Coalition, which 20 years ago organised a march of 500,000 people against the invasion of the Middle East that happened back then, 2 decades ago. So please make Nick welcome.
Thank you, Danica. Well, this venue behind me might be familiar to many of you here. We protested here numerous times. And just to tell a couple of stories about those protests before. About a decade ago, we protested here against the retired General Benny Gantz, who still sits in the Israeli Knesset as a leading opposition figure. But back in 2008, 2009, he was the general commanding the Israeli military when they launched Operation Cast Lead, killing about 2,000 Palestinians in Gaza then. About 2 years ago now, we were out here again protesting another retired general named Almog, who was out here again very recently with Israeli President Herzog. And he similarly was an Israeli commander during a subsequent Israeli invasion of Gaza back in 2014 called Operation Brothers Keeper. And here we are again today protesting yet another figure, not an ex-military general this time, but Ron Dermer, a US-Israeli citizen. He holds 2 passports, while 5 million Palestinians in the West Bank and Gaza have no right to a passport. He flits between Washington and Tel Aviv to do deals, and as has been described by Danica, was instrumental in getting the first Bush administration to sign on to a deal of $3.8 billion US military aid per year for the next 10 years. And that military financing has been advanced even further in the last 2 years with numerous examples from the Biden and Trump administration of handing more and more weapons to Israel. Dermer, described before as the Trump whisperer, has had a cosy relationship with Jared Kushner, Trump's son-in-law, who was instrumental in various property deals in Israel and advancing a plan back then for annexation of large swathes of West Bank territory, which we're seeing come to fruition now. And he's also been instrumental in the discussions with Trump about the Board of Peace, the so-called Board of Peace, which is now presiding over plans to give away large chunks of Gaza territory stolen by the IDF to real estate developers, property moguls, and so on. But what should be said about that all three of these men have in common is that they are all invited guests for gala dinners by the United Israel Appeal, whose event is on tonight behind us. Shame! 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 So what is the United Israel Appeal? Well, according to the Australian federal government, it's a charitable institution which is subsidised by the Australian taxpayer by not having to pay taxes on donations in this country. What does the United Israel Appeal do? Well, it fundraises for various causes, but I challenge you to name one of these causes that could fairly be called charitable. One of the causes that it fundraises for is the Lone Immigrant Soldier program in Israel. Now, Lone Immigrant Soldier might sound like some lonely guy down on his luck, but in fact, lone immigrant soldiers are thousands upon thousands of foreign nationals who go to Israel essentially as hired mercenaries to kill Palestinians. There are shamefully about 400 Australians who have taken up this offer to go and fight with the Israeli Defence Forces in Gaza over the last 3 years or so. And we've not seen one single one of them face prosecution in this country for the war crimes that they've committed. Instead, we hear Albanese carry on about ISIS brides, who he claims he has contempt for. Where is his contempt for those who have served with the Israeli Defence Force, and worse still, those who have commanded those soldiers and those who are guests of this country, like Herzog, like Almog, and like today this guy who is at Ron Dermer, who is at this gala dinner behind us. Shame! Shame! So I'm going to reiterate that what we demand is sanctions on Israel, military sanctions, an arms embargo, diplomatic sanctions that target figures like Ron Dermer, that target not just Netanyahu himself or the right-wing fanatics in his cabinet, but target all of the Israeli politicians who have had a hand in this genocide. None of them should be allowed in this country. None of them should have the red carpet rolled out for them. And we demand trade sanctions. Sanctions that end the ties, the military ties, the commercial ties that allow Israel to profit and thrive through this relationship. And fundamentally, as Sam outlined before, we need to break the alliance with the United States. We need to end this patronage of an empire that sees Israel as its greatest asset in the Middle East. An empire that for a century now has invaded country after country, has propped up military dictatorship after military dictatorship, and today is basically giving a helping hand to a genocidal regime that's carried out some of the worst atrocities we've seen this century. So thanks very much, everyone. We're going to keep coming out. Let's have a few more chants. Free, free Palestine!
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 From the river to the sea!
Palestine will be free!
From the river to the sea!
Palestine will be free!
From the sea to the river!
Palestine will live forever!
From the sea to the river!
International Women's Day, March 8th at 4 p.m. The leaflet's going out for that. Please make the time to come for that, because the genocide in Gaza is not over. Apartheid in Israel is not over, and our government still supports them. And we should keep coming out until there is justice for Palestine, until there are sanctions on Israel. But before we wrap up, I do have a few more things that I want to talk about. So, Ron Dermer was a member of Israel's cabinet until last year. There are notable other figures in Netanyahu's cabinet that remain there to this day, and they have their eyes set firmly on the West Bank and settling more and more land. So, one of the most recent developments that has been happening in the West Bank is the settling of what's called the E1 zone. This is a massive stretch of land stretching out from the outer suburbs of East Jerusalem halfway across to the Jordan River. And this zone is really significant because when this zone is settled and built up, it will plug the hole that is in the apartheid wall that stretches all the distance along the West Bank. It will physically, geographically sever any connection between East Jerusalem, the north of the West Bank, and the south. And all of this is happening under the cover of genocide that Israel is taking, that is taking place in Gaza. They know that while all eyes are on Gaza, and not enough eyes are on Gaza, but while those eyes are on Gaza, they can still encroach further and further on the West Bank. And since the sham ceasefire that took place, that was put in place in October last year, never mind the fact that more than 500 Palestinians have been killed in Gaza since that so-called ceasefire was put into effect, they focused all of their energy since then on the West Bank and settling it. I wanted to bring this up because another member of Israel's cabinet is the finance minister. His name is Bezalel Smotrich. He's a settler. He lives in an illegal settlement in the West Bank. And when they were talking about approving this new zone of settlement, this is how he put it. He said, "This reality finally buries the idea of a Palestinian state because there is nothing to recognize and no one to recognize. Anyone in the world who tries today to recognize a Palestinian state will receive an answer from us on the ground." That is the goal. Those are the aims of the Israeli state. So while Penny Wong, Anthony Albanese, and the so-called Free West leaders can, make musings about a two-state solution and the need for peace, the reality is that Israel is taking its opportunity to kill any prospect of any kind of two-state solution or any kind of Palestinian state in the West Bank. Facts on the ground are what are deciding that reality. As they settle more land, as they claim more of it for themselves, they are burying that idea in the ground, in the words of Smotrich. And those are the people, in Netanyahu's cabinet that worked alongside Ron Dermer, were allies, were architects of the genocide and the settlement of the West Bank. So I think there is not enough that could be said by us here right now to bring any kind of justice to Ron Dermer, but I think we can sure as hell try one last time. We can raise at the top of our lungs our chants, "From the river to the sea,
Palestine will be free.
and from the sea to the river,
Palestine will live forever.
from the river to the sea,
Palestine will be free.
and from the sea to the river."
Palestine will live forever.
Ron Dermer, you can't hide!
We charge you with genocide.
Ron Dermer, you can't hide!
We charge you with genocide.
Ron Dermer, you can't hide!
We charge you with genocide.
Ron Dermer, you can't hide!
We charge you with genocide.
Albanese, you can't hide!
We charge you with genocide.
Albanese, you can't hide!
We charge you with genocide.
Penny Wong, you can't hide!
We charge you with genocide.
Penny Wong, you can't hide!
We charge you with genocide.
Donald Trump, you can't hide!
We charge you with genocide.
Donald Trump, you can't hide!
We charge you with genocide.
1. We are the people. 2.
We won't be silent.
3. Sanction Israel.
Now, 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 now.
1.
We are the people.
2. the slaughter!
Sanction Israel now!
End the siege, stop the slaughter!
Sanction Israel now!
Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!
Free, free, free Palestine!
Free, free, free Palestine!
Free, free Gaza!
Free, free Gaza!
Free, free, free Gaza!
Free, free, free Gaza!
Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!
Free, free, free Palestine!
Free, free, free Palestine!
Free, free Gaza!
Free, free Gaza!
Free, free, free Gaza!
Free, free, free Gaza!
From the river to the sea!
Palestine will be free!
And from the sea to the river!
Palestine will live forever!
From the river to the sea!
Palestine will be free!
And from the sea to the river!
Palestine will live forever!
From the river to the sea!
Palestine will be free!
And from the sea to the river!
Palestine will live forever!
From the river to the sea!
Palestine will be free!
And from the sea to the river!
Palestine will live forever!
One more! Israel, USA!
How many kids have you killed today?
Israel, USA!
How many kids have you killed today?
Israel, USA!
How many kids have you killed today?
Israel, USA!
How many kids have you killed today?
Woo! Thank you so much everyone for coming. Please make sure you're there at the next rally, March 8th, International Women's Day, 4 p.m, Northbridge Piazza. See you there. And bring everyone you know. Bring everyone you know, because the genocide is not over. It has not stopped, so neither should we. Forest Place, not Northbridge Piazza, Forest Place on March 8th.